3 Heavenly Steps to Discover God's Miraculous Will 7 Prophetic Prayers for Divine Guidance. Today the sun streamed down on the quaint little village, illuminating every corner as Eleanor walked toward St. George's Church. Her heart swelled with faith, for each step pulsed with the miracles and unshakable belief she lived by. As the village gathered for service, their spirits matched the brightness of the sky. Clutching her worn Bible, Eleanor embraced the warmth of her community, eager for the pastor's words of divine promise. But on this particular Sunday, the atmosphere shifted as distressing news dampened their hearts. A lurking illness had woven through the family homes in the village, ensnaring loved ones and nurturing a grim mystery that left fear hanging in the air. Despair threatened to nestle in, but Eleanor, whose faith was as steadfast as the ancient oaks that lined the village green, sensed God's call to take action. As she walked home, the shadows loomed like specters over the rolling hills, heavy with uncertainty. Yet, she recalled the pastor's impassioned lessons on the 3 heavenly steps to discovering God's will. With a resolve washed in heavenly light, she resolved to pray to commune with the divine and summon healing for her family and neighbors. Her first step materialized that very night. Beneath the glow of flickering candles, she reached out and invited her neighbors for a family prayer night. Their homes filled with the aroma of comfort food and familiar laughter, but soon shifted toward ardent cries for help. Each prayer was a heartfelt plea, a spark of hope piercing the darkness that enveloped them. It was as if St. George himself had come to life, weaving a golden thread of faith that enveloped the community. But each week that passed thickened the cloud of doubt over Eleanor's heart. Mark, her gentle husband, fell ill, and despair embraced their family fiercely. With each fervent prayer, she wrestled against the darkness, the fears that threatened to drown her faith. Night after night, Eleanor found herself kneeling on the cool floorboards, bathed in tears, clutching her rosary, reminding herself of the miraculous prayers they had all spoken. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That fateful night of healing service, the church felt electrified with emotion. The air was thick with apprehension and fervent prayers. Eleanor stood amongst the congregation, her heart a weighty stone, steeped in the heaviness of their plight. But as voices rose, sharing miraculous tales of healing and the power of faith, a flicker of hope ignited her spirit. Then, like a flash of divine light, Mark appeared. There he stood at the back of the church, radiant and transformed, as if he had risen from the depths of despair. Gasps echoed, hearts leaped, and in that moment of supreme joy, Eleanor's very soul soared. What was happening? Could this truly be the miracle they had prayed for? As the congregation rejoiced, songs of praise filled the air, a symphony of hope. Yet as she rushed towards him, the haunting question lingered: what does this miracle mean for them and their community? With belief ablaze yet uncertainty shadowing her heart, Eleanor sought to comprehend the profound layers of their spiritual journey. What revelations lay ahead? As Eleanor approached Mark, her heart raced with a mixture of excitement and confusion. His presence was a balm to her aching spirit, but she couldn't shake the whispering question that danced in her mind. What had happened? How could he appear so full of life when just days ago he struggled to breathe, a pale shadow of himself? Mark's eyes sparkled like stars reflecting hope, and as she reached him, he gently took her hand in his. The warmth radiating from him felt surreal, a manifestation of the love that had been poured out in prayer. Eleanor, he said, his voice steady and strong, I have so much to tell you. Their reunion was electric, transformed by the spirit that coursed through the church. Yet as the joyous chords of worship filled the room, Eleanor found herself torn between celebration and inquiry, a part of her yearning to fully understand this divine encounter. Tell me everything, she urged, her voice barely above a whisper amidst the jubilant cries. Mark began to recount his experience, words tumbling out like a waterfall. He had felt himself slipping away during those dark days, but then something changed. In the depths of his struggle, he had felt a presence, a warmth enveloping him, as if a gentle hand had brushed against his cheek. He spoke of a vision in which angels danced around him, encouraging him to believe and hold on. "It was as if I was shown a glimpse of heaven," he continued, "and it filled me with such peace." Tears streamed down Eleanor's face as her heart embraced this miracle. A sense of the divine presence lingered in the air like a fragrant bloom, lifting the weight of fear that had held them captive. As the community rejoiced, she could feel the collective heart of the village pulsating with restored hope, yet deep down, a lingering uncertainty nagged at her. What was the purpose of this miracle? Was Mark healed only for themselves, or was something greater unfolding? The very air felt charged with spiritual energy, and Eleanor knew they were being called to something beyond themselves. Inspired, she stepped onto the small platform at the front of the church, the congregation's joyful hymns settling into hushed expectation. "Brothers and sisters," she began, her voice shaking with emotion, "tonight we gather not just to celebrate Mark's healing, but to open our hearts to what God might yet reveal to us." As she spoke, Eleanor felt the presence of the Holy Spirit enveloping the room. "We have prayed for healing, and we have received it, but let us also seek what God desires to do through this moment. What lessons does this miracle carry for us as a community? How can our hearts expand to hold hope and love for those still suffering?" Amidst the cries of affirmation, a stillness settled in, drawing everyone inward. It was a moment of divine connection, a collective breath where souls intertwined in prayer, seeking understanding, seeking guidance. Just then, as Eleanor concluded her thoughts, the church doors swung wide open, punctuated by the cool evening breeze. In that moment, a figure appeared at the threshold, illuminated by the moonlight, an unexpected visitor clutching a brown envelope. Whispers filled the air as eyes fell upon him. Who was he? What message did he bring? Eleanor's heart raced once more. With every fiber of her being, she sensed that another layer of the divine was about to be revealed, an unfolding mystery waiting to draw them further into God's perfect will. What did this man represent, and how would his arrival shape their path ahead? The figure at the door stepped forward, and Eleanor could see him more clearly now, a man in his late 50s, with kind eyes that held a depth of experience. His clothes, somewhat worn but neatly pressed, suggested he was a traveler. The townsfolk seemed to sense the gravity of the moment, silencing their chatter as they regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and reverence. "Peace be with you all," he said, his voice soft yet commanding. "I am Samuel. I bear a message of hope." He gestured towards the brown envelope, holding it close to his heart as if it contained the essence of his mission. Eleanor felt a stirring in her spirit, a quiet confidence arising from his presence. "God has heard your prayers," Samuel continued, his eyes gleaming with a divine light. "And your faith has not gone unnoticed. But this healing, this miracle is only the beginning." Mark's grip on Eleanor's hand tightened, a shared thrill rushing through them. Was this the answer to their unspoken questions? "What do you mean?" Eleanor asked, her voice weaving through the expectant silence. "What is in the envelope?" Samuel took a step closer, allowing everyone to feel the weight of what he was about to share. "Inside this envelope is a vision of your next steps. The Spirit has urged me to guide you, to help you embrace the divine path ahead." He paused for a moment to let his words sink in, a hush spreading across the room like a veil of holy anticipation. "Many in your community are still suffering, seeking answers and healing. Your joy at Mark's restoration is meant to be a beacon of hope. It's a call for others to step into their own breakthroughs. You are to lead them not just through your words but through your actions, your love, and your prayers." Eleanor's heart raced as she considered the implications. This was no ordinary moment. "But how?" she breathed. "What must we do?" Samuel smiled gently, and with a deliberate movement, he opened the envelope, revealing a neatly folded parchment. "It starts with 3 heavenly steps. The first is to gather your friends and family in prayer. Create a space for miracles to occur, for every heart to be heard. The second step is to share your testimony, to bring light to the darkness others face. And the third, and perhaps the most profound, is to be a living example of God's love in action, doing acts of kindness that move beyond your comfort zone. As he spoke, Eleanor felt her mind racing with ideas and possibilities. Each step resonated, echoing in the chambers of her heart like a sacred drumbeat. They were not just words, they were a divine call to action. Finally, Samuel added, "I urge you to pray with expectation. You will receive 7 powerful prayers to lift the spirits of those struggling among you." He paused, his expression growing serious. "These prayers will pour forth blessings you can hardly imagine, but they require faith that is deep and wide." A gentle murmur rippled through the congregation, a blend of excitement and questioning. Samuel's presence felt like a divine appointment, a link between the miraculous and the mundane. Mark turned to Eleanor, his expression affirming the hope that blossomed in her heart. Just then, as Samuel prepared to hand the envelope to Eleanor, an undeniable warmth flooded the room. It felt as if heaven were drawing closer, wrapping them all in a shimmering embrace. The congregation leaned in, captivated by what Samuel would say next, a final revelation before their journey of faith would truly begin. "What if," Eleanor whispered, her eyes wide with contemplation, "what if this is about more than us?" With the pulse of anticipation in the air, Samuel nodded, a twinkle of understanding in his eye. "Indeed. The unfolding of God's will often transcends what we see. Prepare your hearts, for you are about to be part of something magnificent." And with that, the air thickened with divine expectation, leaving everyone wondering, how would this new chapter of their lives unfold under the guiding hand of God? As the words hung in the air, a stillness fell over the room, the kind that comes when hearts are ready to receive. Samuel stood tall, the warm glow of hope radiating from him as the congregation clung to every moment. Eleanor felt a stirring in her soul, like the gentle rustle of leaves in a summer breeze, promising change. Samuel raised the envelope slightly, the parchment within shimmering like a treasure hidden from the world. "Dear friends," he began, "this journey will not be easy, but great things never are. It takes courage to step into the unknown, to challenge the darkness with your light." At the mention of courage, Eleanor felt a flicker of fear. She glanced at Mark, who seemed to be absorbing every word, his faith inspiring her own. "What will happen after we gather everyone in prayer?" she asked, seeking clarity amid her rising excitement. "Miracles occur where the heart is unified in spirit," Samuel said. "They manifest not from mere words but from a deep-seated belief that God will act. It will be through your prayers together that bonds will be formed, burdens lifted, and hope ignited in the hearts of those around you." A warm murmur of agreement passed through the crowd as they exchanged hopeful glances. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, and Eleanor felt her spirit resonate with the energy of their collective faith. "Remember, sharing your testimony is powerful," Samuel continued. "Each story of restoration, healing, or divine intervention is a light for another's path. Don't shy away from your journey. It is the light that shines through the cracks in our pasts that shows how strong we've become." Eleanor's heart swelled at the thought. She had always believed in the importance of sharing her journey, but this was something more, a divine commissioning. "And the acts of kindness?" Eleanor urged. "What should they look like?" "Acts of kindness can be as simple as a listening ear, a warm meal, or a prayer for someone in need. They hold power beyond what you may see. They are not just gestures but extensions of God's love in action, like ripples in water that spread far beyond their origin," he explained, a softness returning to his voice. The crowd nodded, slowly processing Samuel's words as understanding began to bloom within them. The room felt charged with soaring expectation, each person holding on to the possibility of being a vessel for divine grace. As Mark squeezed Eleanor's hand tighter, she caught a glimpse of the future, a community united in prayer, driven by love, and transformed through the power of God. "Now," Samuel said, shifting his gaze to the congregation, "let me share the 7 prayers that will help you unlock this path. Are you ready to receive them?" "Ready," came the collective response, a chorus of eager hearts longing for divine guidance. Each prayer is a key, Samuel began, and as he laid out each one, the words flowed like honey. They were simple yet profound, urging a spirit of gratitude, healing, and intercession. At that very moment, the atmosphere crackled with unity. Faces filled with hope mirrored Eleanor's resolve. This is just the beginning, she thought. Samuel's eyes twinkled with delight, as if he knew the transformation that awaited them. But the true test will come as you step forward. As you share your light and act in love, expect challenges, for they will arise. Will your faith withstand the trials that may come? A silence swallowed the room, leaving Eleanor questioning her own resolve. Would she truly have the strength to lead where uncertainty loomed? As if sensing her thoughts, Samuel looked directly at her, his gaze steady. Do not fear, your vulnerability will be a source of strength. Trust that every step taken with unwavering faith brings you closer to the miracles to come. With that, everyone's eyes were fixed on the envelope, anticipating the forthcoming blessings. What awaited them on this divine journey? How would they uncover God's miraculous will together? And as they stood there, heart stirred and faith ignited, that very question hung in the air, vibrating with untold possibilities. The moment hung like a bead of dew, full of promise and possibility. Samuel's voice, steady and vibrant, beckoned them to lean closer, to hang on to each syllable like it held the secret to their transformation. As you embrace the path ahead, he said, remember the 3 heavenly steps you must take to truly discover God's miraculous will. Eleanor felt her pulse quicken, every heartbeat echoing with the excitement that coursed through the room. What are the steps, Samuel? She whispered, her hand still firmly clasped in Mark's. The first step is connection. Just like the branches of a healthy tree intertwine, you must connect with each other and with God. Reach out to the person beside you. Share your stories, your struggles, and celebrate your victories together, Samuel instructed, his gaze sweeping over the congregation, solidifying their bond. Eleanor turned to Mark and squeezed his hand again. He nodded knowingly, eyes bright. This was what they'd been missing: authentic connection, not just within the walls of the church but in their lives outside, at work, and in their neighborhoods. The second step, Samuel continued, is obedience. Be willing to act on what you hear in prayer. When you receive a calling, even if it seems daunting or uncertain, respond with faith. God will provide the strength to carry out His work. As if the room inhaled collectively, Eleanor felt the weight of those words. Obedience echoed in her heart. It reminded her of previous moments when she had hesitated to step into a calling, fearing the judgment of others or her own inadequacies. And the final step, he added, voice rising with fervor, is celebration. Every time you witness a miracle, no matter how small, celebrate. Your joy and gratitude amplify the work God is doing in your life and in the lives of those around you. A chorus of yes and amen rippled through the crowd, filling the air with vibrant faith. Eleanor envisioned gathering all the stories of victory, weaving them into a tapestry of celebration, a communal testament of God's faithfulness. Now, as you embrace these steps, let us turn to the 7 prophetic prayers, Samuel announced, ready to guide them deeper. These prayers will serve as pillars as you walk this journey. He began to articulate the first prayer: Lord, help me to connect deeply with those around me. May our hearts interlink, creating a network of light. With each prayer, the congregation responded, their voices melding into a sweet melody of faith. Eleanor felt a wave of warmth wash over her, a divine embrace as the words settled in her spirit. She noticed Mark had his eyes closed, engrossed in the moment. After the last prayer, Samuel smiled broadly. You have set forth a mighty foundation. Remember, this isn't just a one-time event. You carry this mission everywhere you go. But just as Eleanor's heart soared, a shadow crossed her mind, a thought that chilled her spirit. Would she truly be able to maintain this journey? The challenges Samuel warned about, could they truly be overcome? God's plans unfold uniquely, Samuel affirmed, seemingly reading her worries. Trust him to guide you in moments of doubt. You don't walk alone. Your steps are infused with his purpose. With those hopeful words, the room reverberated with an energy that palpitated through Eleanor. She could feel it, the firm push of faith urging her onward. As they concluded, her heart brimmed with questions. What challenges awaited them beyond this moment? Would the strength of their newfound bond withstand the tests ahead? With a sense of divine urgency brewing within, she glanced at the group, her spirit ignited. Together, she whispered, almost to herself, we are stronger. Together, we will find our way. And as the last echoes of prayer faded into the atmosphere, the deeper question lingered: when the moment of divine intervention arrived, would they recognize it? A hush fell over the congregation as they began to filter out of the church, the clamor of fellowship giving way to a stillness that seemed sacred. Eleanor lingered for a moment, her heart still pulsing with the rhythm of Samuel's words. She drew in a deep breath, feeling the air around her thick with hope and possibility. Mark stepped beside her, a gentle smile lighting his features. "What are you thinking?" he asked, his voice low as if they were sharing a secret. Eleanor looked into his eyes. "I'm thinking about those steps Samuel talked about, the connection, obedience, and celebration. There's so much more to this than just fitting in at church." "You're right," Mark replied, his enthusiasm matching hers. "It's about living it out. What do you want to do first?" She pondered, feeling the weight of their discussions stirring in her. "Let's start with connection. Perhaps we could invite some folks over for dinner this week, get to know them better." Mark nodded. "That sounds wonderful. But more than just dinner, we should really be open about our struggles too. We can't connect if we're not being honest." Eleanor felt a warmth blossom in her chest. The realization sank in that this wouldn't just be a gathering of casual acquaintances but a potential community forged in vulnerability and honesty. As the days unfolded, the invitations turned into hesitant but heartwarming acceptance from the church family. Around a table laden with food, laughter echoed against the walls of their home. They shared stories, and with each moment, the bond began to weave itself tighter, a tapestry of authenticity. Eleanor felt the gentle pull of God, nudging her to be obedient. One evening, she felt a stirring to share a difficulty she had clung to for years. With shaky hands and a nervous heart, she spoke of her battle with self-doubt, feeling the collective intake of breath around the table. Yet, instead of judgment or pity, she received acceptance and prayers, a sweet offering of grace. The atmosphere shifted, and she felt lighter. The burden she thought would weigh her down transformed into a shared journey, an opportunity for growth. In the warmth of that community, Eleanor realized they were all carrying pieces of each other's burdens. "I never knew it could feel this way," she admitted to Mark after their guests departed. "It's like the fears that once seemed so overwhelming began to fade." Mark nodded. "That's the beauty of connection. When we open up, we lighten the load. But we must remember Samuel's call to obedience. We can't stop there." Eleanor's excitement bubbled. "Yes. We've celebrated every shared story so far, each one a small miracle." Determined to continue the momentum, they crafted a plan to remain consistent. Weekly meetings inviting others to pray and share, allowing the spirit of celebration to flow naturally. But then, something unexpected happened. As they distributed flyers about a gathering to share their stories, Eleanor received a message that twisted her heart. A family member, someone she hadn't spoken to in years, had fallen gravely ill. The shadows of doubt crept back in. Would this news throw them off course? Would their newfound strength withstand the test of this challenge? As they prayed for healing, Eleanor found solace in community, yet felt a compelling pull on her spirit. Should she reach out to this estranged family member? Could obedience lead her to forgiveness? Mark's touch reassured her. "God is moving, Eleanor. This may not be the challenge we expected, but it's ours to face." In that moment, the depths of her faith beckoned for action. The question lingered in the air, charged with mystical promise. In stepping forward, Would she find healing not just for her family but for herself as well? Eleanor stood by the window, the soft evening light casting a warm glow across her face. Her heart raced as she replayed the news in her mind. Could this be the moment God had been preparing her for? She glanced at Mark, who was reading quietly in the corner. Each turn of the page seemed to echo her thoughts, a stillness rippling through their home. Taking a deep breath, she turned from the window. "Mark," she began, her voice slightly shaky, "I think God is calling me to reach out to my family member." Even after all these years, Mark looked up, his eyes filled with understanding and support. "That sounds like a big step. But maybe it's exactly what you need. Sometimes the hardest paths lead to the sweetest fruit." Eleanor felt a knot tighten in her stomach, a blend of fear and anticipation. What if they reject me again? What if I'm not ready? God's strength is made perfect in our weakness, Mark reminded her, the truth of his words grounding her doubts. You won't do this alone. Our community is behind you. A swell of comfort washed over her. The love they felt around the dinner table echoed in her heart. She closed her eyes, picturing their faces, the laughter, the tears, the prayers. "Can we pray together?" she asked, taking Mark's hand. He nodded, and they sank to their knees, the soft carpet cradling them as they bowed their heads. As they prayed, Eleanor poured out her fears and her hopes, asking for courage and peace. Mark's voice waxed and waned, lifting their petition toward heaven, creating a sacred moment that filled the room. When they finished, Eleanor felt lighter, as if the weight of uncertainty had lessened. "I'll reach out tomorrow," she declared, the determination swelling within her. It felt as if the act of faith was already unfolding a step toward obedience. The next morning, the sun broke through the clouds, illuminating the world outside. Eleanor picked up her phone, hesitating only for a moment. She dialed the number, her pulse quickening as the phone rang. Her heart echoed in her ears, each ring amplifying her anxiety. Finally, a voice came through, unfamiliar but kind. "Hello?" "Hi, it's Eleanor from the family," she stammered, surprised by her own courage. The conversation flowed, tentative at first but growing more open as she expressed her heart. They spoke about old times, shared stories, and eventually, the illness that weighed heavy on them. As they concluded the call, tears filled Eleanor's eyes, not from sadness but from a sense of reconnection, a glimmer of hope. God was in this, weaving moments of grace from strands of their past. Later, when she shared the news with Mark, the joy on his face mirrored her own. "You did it. You reached across that divide," he celebrated, pulling her into a warm embrace. "I feel free," she whispered, a soft glow in her heart. As they sat together reflecting on the breakthrough, the community's impact felt tangible. "This journey isn't just about us, is it?" Mark pondered. "It's about how we can encourage others to take bold steps, too." Eleanor nodded, excitement bubbling within her. "What if we could invite our community to share their stories of reconciliation? It might inspire others to heal." Mark's eyes lit up. "That's a brilliant idea. A night of stories, of redemption. Celebration in community." The vision filled them with anticipation. Yet, a question lingered at the back of Eleanor's mind: would the bond they were building withstand the trials to come? As they prepared for this new outreach, Eleanor felt the reminder of their journey thus far. Connection could light the darkest corners, but what new challenges might arise as they ventured further into God's plan? In this newfound courage, they sensed the presence of something powerful stirring within their community, waiting to unfold. Eleanor awoke the next day with a lightness in her heart. The sun streamed through the curtains, bathing the room in warmth, a gentle reminder of the new chapter she was stepping into. She turned to Mark beside her, knowing their decision to invite their community to share in this journey felt like throwing a stone into a still pond. Ripples of hope were set to spread. As they shared breakfast, excitement swirled in the air like the steam from their mugs. "Do you think people will really come?" Eleanor asked, her curiosity stirring. Mark reached across the table, clasping her hand. If we invite them authentically, they will feel it. We are all searching for connection, for stories that resonate with our own. Later that week, Eleanor and Mark set up a simple gathering. They invited friends and family, creating an atmosphere of warmth and welcome. Twinkling fairy lights adorned the living room, visible through the windows like beacons of hope. On the evening of the event, the sound of laughter and chatter filled the air, and almost immediately, Eleanor felt the presence of God enveloping them all. As the evening unfolded, one by one, people began to share their raw and powerful stories of reconciliation. A neighbor spoke of re-establishing ties with a father they barely knew, while a friend shared how forgiveness had transformed a relationship bruised by years of hurt. Each tale resonated deeply, striking chords within Eleanor's own struggles. She realized this was the heart of their community, a shared tapestry woven by vulnerability and love. God's love reflects in each of our stories, Eleanor found herself saying as she stood to speak. Every moment of hurt can lead us to healing. It's not just about the past, but what God is doing now. An amen echoed from the back, and she felt a surge of energy course through the room. As the night went on, Eleanor noticed how their collective story sparked conversations, igniting flickers of healing in others. She could see tears glimmering in some eyes, and laughter bubbling over spontaneous joy. In that moment, it became clear, this was worship in its purest form. This was God moving among them. Mark stood to share next, his voice steady and warm. We are stepping into a new season, one where we embrace the brokenness and discover grace in each other. Your stories have given me strength and, I believe, will lead to transformation beyond our own hearts. At the close of the evening, as they prayed together, the atmosphere shifted again. A heaviness lifted, and Eleanor felt a profound peace wash over her. It was as if the Holy Spirit had swept through the room, affirming every shared word and every tear shed. As they concluded, Eleanor looked around and felt a stirring in her heart. The seeds of connection had been planted, sprouting in ways she could never have imagined. Yet, a whisper tugged at her edges, how deep does this journey go? Would the fruits of their labor withstand the storms they might face ahead? Mark, sensing the depth of her thoughts, squeezed her hand. No matter what, we will face it together. His voice was steady, a rock amidst uncertainty. Eleanor nodded, a renewed commitment blooming within her. The journey of reconciliation had begun, but what challenges awaited them on this path? As she glanced around their warmly lit room, enveloped by their community, Eleanor wondered what divine mysteries were at play, waiting for her next courageous step. And in that moment, she knew, God had more in store, much more. Days turned into weeks, and the gathering became a catalyst for transformation in Eleanor and Mark's lives. Each week, as they met, the atmosphere shifted. More chairs were added, laughter increased, and the stories grew deeper and more poignant. The community was growing, it felt alive, breathing new hope and friendship into every heart. One crisp evening, with leaves swirling outside and the scent of mulled cider wafting through the air, Eleanor felt an unshakable urge to dive deeper. She stood in front of her small group, her voice imbued with sincerity. What if we created a space for worship? Not just sharing stories, but connecting with God in a way that lays bare our souls? A ripple of anticipation flowed through the room. Mark nodded, his eyes brightening with the idea. We need to let His presence guide us, he encouraged them. When we open ourselves up in worship, He can lead us to places we never dreamed possible. With that spark ignited, they began weaving plans for a dedicated night of worship. It was to be a gathering devoted entirely to seeking God. Eleanor found herself flipping through her journal and scribbling down prayers that felt alive with intention. Powerful words poured out, infused with hope and faith. As the night approached, Eleanor felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. What if they didn't feel God's presence? What if the night fell flat? Yet, as she prayed, a still, small voice spoke to her heart, whispering wisdom. It's not about perfection, it's about your willingness to seek me. The evening arrived, and in the glow of candles, their living room transformed into a sanctuary. The air vibrated with a sweetness that felt sacred. As each person arrived, Eleanor noticed it was more than just a gathering. It was a pilgrimage of sorts, each soul bringing their burdens to lay at God's feet. Music floated gently from the speakers, filling the place with melodies of adoration. As they began to sing, Eleanor closed her eyes and breathed deep. It was as if every note lifted her spirit, wrapping her in a blanket of warmth and assurance. She could feel God moving. It was palpable. Then, spontaneously, she began to share her own prayer aloud. Lord, reveal to us your will. We are here, waiting, hoping, yearning. The others joined in, lifting their voices in unison. A beautiful sound of vulnerability echoed through the room, enveloping them in collective faith. As they worshipped, something extraordinary happened. The room seemed to shine with a lightness that had not been there before. Tears flowed freely, not just from Eleanor but from many. It was a release, a beautiful unveiling of hearts, longing for connection and truth. Suddenly, Eleanor opened her eyes, looking around at the faces reflecting the divine light. Each one was a mirror of brokenness turned to strength, of fear transformed by hope. In that moment of shared devotion, there was a bond unbreakable, a web of support that only God could weave. Yet, as they moved into the time of communion and reflection, Eleanor felt a persistent thought tugging at her spirit. Was this merely the beginning? What new depths lay ahead? They broke bread together, laughter mingling with heartfelt confessions. And as they prayed once more, Eleanor sensed the air charged with potential. Are you ready for more? She whispered to God, unsure of what that might entail but longing to step into it, and in a quiet moment of stillness, the room held its breath, mindful of the divine mystery unfolding. What miraculous path might God illuminate next? What invitation lay just beyond their reach? As Eleanor leaned into that sacred silence, she felt a thrill, knowing God was preparing them for something profound and she was ready to follow. The dawn broke gently over the village, filling every nook and cranny with warmth and light. Eleanor stepped outside, her heart fluttering like the wings of a sparrow in flight. The past months had been a whirlwind of prayers and connections, healing and revelations. Yet, the greatest excitement brewed just beyond the horizon. As she made her way to St. George's Church, she was acutely aware of the whispers of hope fluttering among the villagers. Each face she passed mirrored the sentiment. The buoyancy of faith was pulsating through the streets, weaving every household into a tapestry of belonging. Samuel's words still echoed in her heart, "Your joy is a beacon of hope." Inspired, she picked up her pace, eager to embrace the collective anticipation. Stepping inside the church, Eleanor felt the Holy Spirit instantly envelop her, a warm embrace reminding her of the divine purpose that lay ahead. Today was not just another church service, it was the culmination of their journey, an event meant to ignite faith and fuel hope for those who still wandered in darkness. The congregation, filled with vibrant energy, buzzed like bees around a blooming garden. As Eleanor looked around, her eyes caught Mark's, sparkling with pride as he adjusted the microphone on the pulpit. Together, they had cultivated this night a night to share miracles, testimonies, and above all, the 7 prophetic prayers that could transform lives. Their dreams had birthed a reality. With each seat filled, Eleanor took a deep breath, filling her spirit with gratitude. Today's gathering would focus on how their community could rise together, empowered through shared blessings. Gathering everyone's hands in prayer, Mark nodded, and Eleanor opened the service with heartfelt enthusiasm. "Brothers and sisters, we stand together in this space woven with love and faith," she began, the warmth of camaraderie stringing them closer. "Every miracle we've witnessed binds us to our purpose. Each of us carries stories of restoration and transformation, and tonight, we will let those stories shine." Eleanor began to recount her own journey, how fear and uncertainty had melted away under the light of prayer and community. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears as she shared her story of reconciliation with her family member, how God had turned a cold distance into the warmth of connection. As she spoke, the congregation leaned in, hanging on to her every word like a lifeline thrown in turbulent waters. The room pulsed with energy, anticipation igniting their spirits. "Let us not just celebrate our victories, but also pray for the countless souls who need hope, Mark added, standing beside her. Tonight, we will reflect on the power of our collective faith. We will pray the prayers given to us that they may become the lifeblood for those still struggling. With unison, they embarked on the first prophetic prayer. The room echoed with powerful voices lifting to the heavens, "Lord, guide us to embody your love." Eleanor felt a rush as every person prayed together, their voices melding like a symphony of devotion. As they transitioned through each prayer, powerful testimonies emerged from the crowd, spilling forth like jubilant offerings. One woman stood to share her miraculous healing from a chronic illness, describing how hope had lifted her spirit when she had felt abandoned in her suffering. The congregation erupted into praise, clapping and shouting affirmations, hearts intertwining in divine celebration. Eleanor watched in awe as others followed suit, courage welling up within them. The evening flourished, not merely as a service, but as a powerful movement of God's Spirit among them. The sweetness of unity hung heavy, almost tangible, wrapping them in a sacred embrace, yet amid the celebration, a delicate hush fell over the room as another member bravely rose to recount her struggle. Faces softened in empathy as they listened to her share the rawness of grief and loss. This moment was more than healing, it was an unveiling, where collective vulnerability turned pain into an opportunity for miraculous love. Eleanor's heart swelled, knowing that they were at a tipping point. God was moving powerfully, and this night was the catalyst for deeper transformations yet to come. As the evening drew to a close, Samuel stepped forward once more, glowing in the light of the candles. "You have tapped into a divine flow tonight," he proclaimed, his voice resonant with authority. "Know this, miracles are born when community gathers in faith, unified in purpose. You are more than conquerors, and tonight is just the beginning." With that declaration, the congregation erupted in applause, a chorus of exhilaration drowning out all doubt. They left that evening with hearts kindled, propelled into a new dawn. But Eleanor felt an electric current running through her. She knew that another journey lay on the horizon. As she stepped outside into the cool night air, Mark beside her, she turned to him, her heart racing. "What if we formed a ministry here? A space where people can regularly come together not just to share but to learn, heal, and grow?" Mark's eyes shone with excitement. "That's incredible. We can make it a haven for all who need connection. Together, we can expand our mission beyond this night." With the night air swirling around them, Eleanor felt God's presence like a force, urging her forward. Their community was ripe for transformation, ready to answer the calls of those who had yet to experience the loving embrace of Christ. What awaited them next would be nothing short of divine, and as they walked home, hope soaring, Eleanor whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude. They were truly stepping into the miraculous will of God, ready for the next chapter filled with faith, miracles, and boundless love. This was their moment, this was the journey. As a beloved community, they would forge ahead into the unfolding destiny that awaited them together. Now, my friends, this is where you come in. You need to subscribe immediately to this channel so you won't miss the next exclusive faith stories that will ignite your soul. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let us spread this message far and wide. You must comment below how this story touched your heart, share your reactions, and your testimonies. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this divine manifestation. Together, let us build this community of hope and encouragement for everyone who is searching. Your support means the world.